Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to BioKorea 2020 Live Talk. Well, today is the third day of the real-time online streaming. Thanks for tuning in our channel. I'm so happy to meet you. I am Kyung Kim, your MC. Ladies and gentlemen, are you looking for experts in bio industry, or are you seeking to improve your business? Then this is the right place and right time. So far, we have introduced pharmaceutical, bio, and healthcare companies' core technology, as well as their strategies and vision to you for the past 2 days. And today, as the last day of the live talk, we have 12 companies lined up. So you can definitely look forward to it. And viewers, have you visited to the official website of BioKorea 2020? This event is the biggest bio convention in Asia, which is being held for the 15th time this year. And it is undertaking a new form as an online convention from e-conference, virtual exhibition, also to business forum, including online meeting and company presentation. And BioKorea 2020 will be held until tomorrow, so please visit our website and enjoy the world's first full-scale online international convention. So this live talk is being conducted as a real-time streaming service. So for English speaker, please search BioKorea at YouTube. And also simultaneous interpretation into Korean is now provided online channel KBIC. Also, our channel has real-time live chat room, so I look forward to your comments and questions. And audience participating in our live talk actively will go in the draw for a gift. So please stay with us until the end. Okay, then let's meet the first company for today. Well, actually, many promising Australian companies are participating actively in BioKorea 2020. Thank you very much. So the first company I'd like to introduce is Southern Star Research. And this company is a leading Australian, privately owned, a full-service contract research organization, specializing providing clinical research services for pharmaceutical, medical device, and biotechnology clinical trials. So our first speaker, are you there? Mr. Chris Stellatos, can you hear me?
Hi, good afternoon, Hannah. How are you?
Good. Thank you for joining us. Director, Corporate Development, Chris Stellatos. So would you please introduce your company?
Fantastic, absolutely. And look, obviously, thank you very much for BioKorea and Austrade for organising. It's always an absolute pleasure to be speaking at conferences such as this. Hopefully next year we can do this in person. So look, effectively today what we'll be doing is we'll be just providing everyone with a very brief summary about Southern Star Research, as well as the real opportunity to actually conduct your early phase research here in Australia and New South Wales specifically. So without further ado, if we can quickly go to the next slide, that'd be fantastic. Look, a little bit about myself. I am a molecular biotechnologist by training, and obviously working in the corporate development team. And again, what I'll be doing is I'll walking you through a little bit about Southern Star Research and then early phase research in Australia. So if we can skip through to the next slide, please. Fantastic, perfect. All right, well, look, Southern Star Research, we're fundamentally a full-service CRO. We're based in Sydney, and look, we again are able to support our clients with the full spectrum of services, and that's everything from helping them write the protocol through to delivering the study report at the end. We've got certainly a track record of success of working with international sponsors, and about 85% of our clients are actually international sponsors. And certainly it goes without saying that we strive to exceed project timelines and milestones. I think importantly, it's important to recognise that in the international community, we obviously need to be pushing for milestones. So next slide, please. Fantastic, thank you. So look, in terms of the regions in which Southern Star operates, we have staff active and actively located throughout the Asia Pacific and Europe regions. In actual fact, we're managing trials throughout Australia, New Zealand, Asia, which obviously includes South Korea, Europe, which is France, Belgium, the UK, as well as Russia and North America. Now, through our partner networks, we can obviously engage in regions where we don't have a physical presence, but we are supporting biotech companies throughout all of these regions. Next slide, please. Now, in terms of the market in which we specialize, it's very much early phase research, and that is predominantly phase 1, phase 2. You can see the diagram on the right there, just goes to show that 75% of our work is actually phase 1, phase 2. Now, this includes first in human, phase 1B, 2A, and then also 2B studies. Now, what differentiates us is how we can effectively help our clients expedite their commercialization process. It's about how can we get you through your healthy volunteer study and into your patient study as quickly as possible. Now, in the early phase realm, obviously the support that we can provide is listed on the screen, but it's everything from helping you identify the site, helping you identify your key opinion leaders and your key sites in patient populations, as well as the more traditional services there. But most importantly, what we also do is we actually, through our engagement and identification of key sites, help you identify and prepare your ethics package for submission to regulators. Next slide, please. As I've mentioned, look, Southern Star Research, again, we're very much a biotech specialist CRO. And what that basically means is we know that working with a biotech is completely different to working with a big pharma. We know that we need to be agile, flexible, and adaptable in the way that we deliver our service. And ultimately, if you're going to engage in clinical research in Australia and your home country is outside of Australia, then we know that we need to form a true partnership with you. Again, as I've already mentioned, we've got fantastic relationships and long-term relationships with key opinion leaders. So we are certainly acutely aware of the need to give your study every possible chance at success. Next slide. So what I'll be doing now is I'll be providing with a very brief overview as to the key reasons why you should consider early phase research in Australia and New South Wales in particular. But for those unaware, early phase research in Australia is a fantastic opportunity for you to expedite your clinical development process. In a nutshell, the speed to startup is second to none, and the opportunity for you to actually initiate your study in as little as 4 to 6 weeks from submitting your documents for approval. We've got a very efficient clinical trial approval system. We've got a centralised and specialised early phase ethics committees here in New South Wales, and that ensures consistency and speed in terms of ethics reviews. Most importantly, however, all of the data that we generate is generated to FDA and EMA standards. So there is a fantastic track record and history of early phase studies being used to support later phase studies in the FDA and EMA markets. Needless to say, you won't need to repeat studies if you do conduct early phase research here in Australia. So again, it's a fantastic opportunity to accelerate your clinical pipeline. Needless to say, we've obviously got extensive scientific talent and medical infrastructure to support pretty much most clinical studies. Now, in terms of the actual clinical trial approval pathway, if we skip forward to the next slide, what you'll see is there are 3 distinct phases of having any clinical trial approved in Australia. Now, this is very much the case for early phase research as well. But we have an ethics committee, we have governance, and then we have the clinical trial notification. Ethics is fundamentally the scientific review. This is where your protocol, your IB, any preclinical or tox data is reviewed, and that is reviewed, generally speaking, in 4 to 6 weeks. Now, site governance, obviously private sites don't necessarily need to go through this, but think of this as your contracting, your legal, your budget negotiations, and so on. This process is remarkably quick. We've seen this done in as little as 2 weeks. So that happens in parallel as your ethics committees. Now, the Australian FDA, which is the TGA on that slide, they don't do a scientific review of the study, as the ethics committees are all operating to standard guidelines. So you can see that with all of these 3 steps happening in parallel, your clinical trial can be approved in as little as 4 to 6 weeks. So it's certainly an expedited process, and it will shave months off your development timelines. So hopefully that has given you a bit of an overview about Southern Star Research and the early phase and ethics approval process here in Australia. So the next slide is literally just a thank you with my contact details, but are there any questions?
Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation. I really enjoy your presentation. And as you mentioned, so can I see you? Can you just turn on the video so that I can see you? Hi, Chris.
You still there, Hannah? Yes, hello.
I cannot see you now. So please
Oh,
turn
no,
on the video.
Oh,
at the
I'm
top of
having
your
that
screen.
internet connectivity issues, unfortunately, so I can't turn my camera on. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay, it's okay then. Okay, still I can hear you clearly. So, okay, so you are done with your. 네, 저희 지금 라이브 토크 두 개의 채널로 여러분께 이게 송출.
We are streaming today's event in 2 channels. It looks like one of them has a bit of an issue. So our viewers, please understand and be patient. We'll be back with you in a few minutes. Thank you very much. So today's live talk, we have 12 companies and we have just complete the first company's presentation, and the second company, Novatech, is now preparing for the second presentation. And as we are checking the technical issues, we'll soon begin our event. So for those of you who are in the live chat room, please feel free to ask questions or share your comments with us. And you can also access our official website, and you can check all the company information that have joined the live talk, and you can also network with them as well. So please, once again, do check our official website. You can check the website till tomorrow.
To begin the presentation. Thank you very much. I'm so sorry, President Kim. Are you there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Yeah, we are perfectly ready to hear your presentation.
Fantastic.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, please begin your presentation.
Okay, thank you so much. And before starting my presentation, because I expect most of audience is in Korean, so my presentation will be done both in English and Korean. Hope that will be fine. Okay, so please turn on my slide. My slide is ready for presentation.
슬라이드
Okay.
바로. 네.
Okay, then the first slide, and first of all, I'll introduce our company, Novatech, as an Asia Pacific specialist. Novatech head office is located in Australia, Sydney, and we have about 25 years company history in Australia and Asia. And we have office in Australia, New Zealand, South Korea, China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and India. Here at Novatech, I'm managing Asia region to cover from South Korea to India, except Australia and New Zealand. We have more than 700 staff, and among them, half located in Australia and half located in Asia. And specifically in South Korea, we established the local office in 2007, And the Novotech has almost 13 years experience here. And the Novotech Korea have about the 80 staff number who based in South Korea Seoul office. And we are able to cover the multi-functions and from South Korea office. Project managers and clinical staff, regulatory affairs, quality management, and business development. And especially the Korean PMs have experience to manage Australia learning clinical trial. So our sponsors are able to take options to use the Australian PM or Korean PM to learn the study in Australia. Next slide, please. Yeah, I already explained our company, and we provide a service from the end to end. We provide the service from the site selection, and our service including the data management and project management and statistical service, quality management, medical lighting, and the medical monitoring by medics. And also we have a consulting group to provide the service of the drug development strategy and also commercialization of the product. I will explain the more detail in next slide. Next slide, please. Next slide shows briefly why Australia is so attractive for the clinical trial destination. And as previous presenter mentioned that in the key three components are quite similar. And the first one is speed. Startup time of Australia is usually 6 to 8 weeks based on our experience. Ethics committee approval is needed. However, regulatory agency approval is not required. Once ethics committee approves the protocol, and the TGA, Australian Health Authority notification will be fine enough. And Australia has a less burden of the regulatory submission requirements compared to US, even compared to South Korea. For example, the CMC data package is not required for Australian submissions. Second one is cost. Up to the 6% cheaper cost is needed to run a trial in Australia than in US. And I will explain more detail of R&D incentive cash refund scheme to next slide. And the third one is quality. Australia has very good medical staff and clinical trial facilities and infrastructures. And I'm able to say Australia data is well accepted by previous slide. Yes. In Australia, the data is well accepted by major regulatory authorities, US FDA and the EMA, based on the high quality data. And these components of the Australia are the really great fitting into South Korea biotech's drug development demands. And I strongly recommend to think of the Australia for Korean biotech company. Next slide, please. This slide shows somehow details on the Australia R&D defense scheme, and this is up to 43.5%. All R&D expenditures in Australia can be included in this scope. For example, the CRO cost like Novotech and the site and PI cost. And this is eligible for a company not exceeding revenue over 20 million Australian dollar. To get this virtual company setup is required. And you don't need to wait till the end of the clinical trial to get this refund. And this can be managed annually. And you are able to use this refunded cash in Australia for next phase of clinical trial. Or you are able to transfer this money back to South Korea parents company. Novotech is working with Kose Consulting, which is dedicated service company to set up a virtual company and to provide the support annual treat of the cash refund. And I just briefly mention with some examples in Korean. 예를 들어서 한국에 있는 바이오텍이 매출 규모.
So for example, if a Korean company's revenue exceeds 20 million Australian dollars, then what happens is that Australian government will provide rebate. So let's say that if there's no profit, given that there's no profit, then the maximum, the rebate will be 43.5%. So in this specific example, if you calculate it in Korea, that'd be like around 330 million Australian dollars. So this is basically what this scheme is about. So if you compare this, as I previously mentioned, comparing to the US, Australia provides a huge cost advantage, and even comparing to the Korean standard.
Next slide shows, and I would like to show some examples of the Novotek's experience of phase 2 to 3, including Australia. And the first case from South Korean biotech company Pharmacin, and its phase 2 metastatic solid tumor study. 2 sites are open in Australia. It takes for the 15 months from kicking off the study to completion of subject recruitment. We obtained really great feedback from Korean biotech Pharmacin on our capability to select the right PIs and sites and our very strong capability of feasibilities. Also, the sponsor mentioned that Novotek understood the South Korean environment quite well, and of course, in addition to in-depth knowledge of clinical practice in Australia. I think this is quite, the really good example for Korean biotech. And currently, Pharmacin is learning the phase 2 study in US and still collaborating with us. And in this case, and the resources used in Australia still a scope of the R&D tax incentive. So, and this is near genuine the benefit for the Korean biotechs. Next slide, please. Next slide is non-oncology phase 2 in Australia. The previous slide is the oncology program, and this slide shows phase 2 non-oncology. This example from US biotech. Indication is atopic dermatitis, and the 4 sites were open in Australia, and we finished the activities in the 7.5 months from the kickoff to subject recruitment completion. This is a really good example to show the faster startup in Australia, how that makes a biotech company to reduce the drug development time when they select Australia as targeted clinical trial location. Next slide, please. And the last example is for phase 3. For phase 3, 2 things is really important. First one is the quality, and second one is timeline management. Novotek was leading these phase 3 examples. 43 sites are open in Australia, South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Singapore. And this study has been run by global CRO in the other regions. But the sponsor made a decision to take over this study to us. And however, since Novotek took over it, Asia showed the great success of the subject recruitment to meet the drug development timeline. And this study was inspected by US FDA last year, and we managed this very well and completed without any major critical findings. And this product is successfully moved to a project registration process in US. And I think this showed the Novotek's high quality service. Next, please. Yeah, Novotek has a separate consulting group, and this is quite good good benefits for the biotech companies. Novotek's Biodesk consulting group provide the service of the how better to develop the product and what kinds of strategy can be applied. And we understand the biotech's common interest is how to move data transfer to US for product registration or for the next phase of drug development. Novotek Biodesk consultant will provide the drug development consulting from really early stage of development. For example, the end of the preclinical animal testing. And the Biodesk consultants is able to provide where is the best location of the clinical trial, what kinds of data is the required additionally, and they are provided the kinds of review opinion. And also the Biodesk consultant can provide consulting work how better to transfer the clinical outcomes and results from clinical trial from Australia and Asia to US. And the Biodesk will be the main, the very close contact across all the development of the products. And the Biodesk can take any question on the drug development strategy. And I think this is really, the good service for the Korean biotechs or Asian biotechs who are the new to go to the US markets. And the biotech consultant is really experienced, and someone is based in even US. And we have very experienced staff, more than 20 consultants in the Biodesk. And this is additional benefit Novotech can provide for the biotech company. And my end of my presentation, I wanted to make a summary in Korean and what is the Novotech's recommendation for drug development for Korean companies. 정리해서 말씀드리자면 사실
So to sum up, our recommendation is that Australia is indeed a country where you can carry out your clinical test in a very prompt manner, and also it can give you a huge cost advantages. So if you think about transferring your drug development to the US market, or so carrying out the initial stage of the clinical trial in Australia will be our recommendation. And to do that, we need to establish a virtual company in Australia. But as I've mentioned with our consulting team, we can provide you with the best advice on when is the best time to carry out that test trial. So that way you'll be able to get the cash return. And I think that is why that Australia provides such a good cost advantages. And after that, whether to carry out this second part or in other Asian countries, or whether you'd like to carry out in the United States, all of that can be discussed and consulted with our consulting group, Biodesk, as I've just mentioned. And of course, quality is the utmost priority, and that is our focus as well. And most importantly, how to transfer data to the United States and how to extensively use the outcome that you got from your trial in Australia. So all of this will be supported by our company, and that is our capability. And I look forward to working with you. Thank you so much.
Okay, President Kim, thank you very much for your presentation. So you've explained how Korean bio company can make, go into Australian market, and also it was very good information and the strength of Novotech services. Thank you very much for your presentation. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the next company. We have 10 more companies lined up today. So next company is Q-Gensel Therapeutics. This company is an Australian-based CDMO with extensive experience in the manufacture of cell therapies for clinical trials. And this company has been manufacturing cell therapies for more than 20 years. So you can have more detail in this time around. So the speaker will be General Manager Leon Scott. Hi, Leon, you there?
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you very well, thank you.
Okay, say hello to our viewers.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
So-
Simple and nice. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay,
very much.
Please begin your presentation now.
Excellent, shall do. So again, welcome everybody. Thank you for your time, and to the organiser of the BioKorea 2020. Thank you very much for your ongoing hospitality in this opportunity. As Hannah mentioned, Q-Gensel Therapeutics is a manufacturer of cell therapies. I was actually looking in preparation for this talk at the current breakdown of clinical trials globally for cell therapies, and there's now over 1,000 cell and gene therapy clinical trials currently underway. Remarkably, 93% of them are in phase 1 and phase 2, and in the cell therapy space. And I think that's creating a major challenge for small and medium biotech companies who may have a cell therapy asset, one of the challenges you all face is how do you get manufacturing capacity to actually get that into the clinic? And if you can get manufacturing capacity, do they have the experience and expertise to actually deliver? Novatech gave a wonderful presentation of why you might want to run your clinical trials in Australia, and I absolutely support the message that they're giving you. Australia is a great location and a great partner to be doing your clinical trials. QGen is a great partner for manufacturing your cell therapies for those clinical trials. Next slide, please. Okay, so as mentioned, we've got approximately 20 years experience, and unfortunately the graphics won't cover detail on this slide here, but suffice to say we've completed a very large number of clinical trials, both investigator and industry sponsored, and we have a number of trials we're manufacturing for in phase 1 and phase 2, whether it's blood cancer, glioblastoma, head and neck cancers, multiple sclerosis, infectious diseases following transplantation, and melanoma is a trial that we're about to start as well. So quite a broad experience in the sort of cells that we manufacture. If we jump forward to the next slide, thanks. So key in our experience as a manufacturer, and I guess fundamental of what we do, is we manufacture to a GMP standard investigational cell therapies for early phase clinical trials. That involves the collection, the manufacture and distribution of cell therapy products, not just for clinical trials in Australia, but also we manufacture and export to clinical trials in the US and in Asia. We have extensive experience in both autologous and allogeneic immunotherapies, but also able to manufacture other cell types such as iPSCs and MSCs as well. Next slide, please. So part of that key aspects of being able to manufacture clinical therapies is also being able to do the appropriate quality control testing, and we have a very extensive facility for that and a lot of very experienced staff. So we can do all of the sorts of quality control you might normally expect, be that sterility, mycoplasma, endotoxin, pH, osmolality and the like. Immunophenotyping of the cells is also a very important part of what we do. In the QC space for cell therapies, potency testing and product purity is actually a very big challenge, not just for the biotechs and the manufacturers, it's a big challenge for the regulators as well. And that's something where we've actually got quite a lot of experience in both developing and deploying potency tests. Next slide, please. We also have experience in a broad range of regulatory systems. So we are licensed by the TGA, the equivalent of the FDA in Australia, for the manufacture of immunotherapies for phase 1, 2 and 3 clinical trials. Because of the regulatory framework, we can manufacture phase 1 trials for MSCs and iPSCs and other cell types as well. Later phase trials will be subject to regulatory approval. And we've got experience of multiple phase 1 and phase 2 trials in Australia. We also have a phase 1 IND in the US, and a phase 2 IND is pending. And we also do a phase 1 and 2 trials in Hong Kong. So we've got some reasonable amount of experience in international regulatory frameworks. I would like to add Korea to that list. Next slide, please. So this is a little bit of information, I guess, about our facility. We actually have 15 clean rooms in all, 13 class 7 and 2 class 8, and a total of 2,600 square metres gross floor area. Next slide, just in the interest of time, I won't spend too much time on that. I have a couple of case studies I'd just like to very briefly mention. And then hopefully have some time for some questions. So the first case study, and both case studies look at some international work that we do. So this is on top of all of the trials we support in Australia. So this is a United States company that's a T-cell company. The company, for your information, is Atara Therapeutics, and this is their multiple sclerosis program. Their lead product is actually in phase 3, but a few years ago they actually licensed 2 products for multiple sclerosis from the medical institute where we're located. And they made a decision, because their manufacturing facility was under construction at the time, to back contract to QGen Cell Therapeutics for the manufacture of one of these products for phase 1 in the US and Australia. Now, even though their manufacturing facility is now open, we're continuing to manufacture that product, and actually our scope expanded to the second product as well. So I think it's a really good vote of confidence in the work we do, that even though they have their own in-house capacity, they've maintained manufacturing with us as their CDMO. And actually, it's a very exciting time for us, because later on this evening, Atara is actually going to be doing a major report on their 12-month data from that phase 1 study. So we're holding our breath to see exactly how well that's going. Very exciting 24 hours for us all. Next slide, please. So our next case study is actually an investigator-led study. So this is now a phase 2 study in Hong Kong and Australia. And this is a good example of how we can tailor our services for our customer. So in this case, even though we're the manufacturer, we control quite a substantial part of the clinical trial process, in partnership with the clinical leads, obviously. But we actually control the recruitment, collection, shipping, manufacture, and release of the product under our license. So the supply chain we control includes patient collection in Hong Kong, overnight shipment of fresh blood to our laboratories in Brisbane, manufacture of the product and all of the QC testing and release, the shipping of the product back to Hong Kong, and finally patient infusion. So I think it's a good example that we're not restricting ourselves just to what we do in the manufacturing facility, but working with our customers to make sure we give them what they need. Next slide, please. So this is my penultimate slide. And really it's the message here that Australia, as you're hearing, is a fantastic place to partner to do your clinical trials. And if you've got a cell therapy asset, QGen is a great partner to help you with the manufacturing of that cell therapy asset and actually drive forward your clinical program. And finally, with next slide will be my contact details. So if you have any questions, please reach out to us. We're very happy to provide support and advice wherever we can. Next slide, please. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation. So it's wonderful. So for those of our current company who would like to enter the Australian market, yeah, your company is definitely a good choice, I think. Thank you. So would you please say a few words to our viewers, because this program is, you know, an online service, online streaming service. So hopefully next year, I hope to see you in Korea, so on the venue. So say a few words to our viewers, like, let's meet.
Absolutely. So, absolutely. So I've already got it in my calendar for BioKorea 2021. I will be there, and we will see you there. Looking forward to an excellent trade show next year.
Thank you very much for your kind words. Have a good day. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, it has been QGen Cell Therapeutics. Thank you very much. Let's move on to next company. Luina Bio. This company is Australia's most experienced biopharmaceutical CDMO based in Brisbane. This company said that because Korea has a very similar time zone to Australia, so having easy contact with its current Korean customers. So definitely it is very true. So Mr. Max Rosetto, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, how are you today?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much for your participation. Look forward to your presentation. Please begin.
Thank you. So if you could put up the slides. I would like to to start by thanking the customers, the organizers of this event, and also I would like to continue the manufacturing flavor that was given to us by QGen. If I can have the next slide. So Luina Bio is Australia's most experienced CDMO. We have been doing this kind of work for over 20 years, and we offer two types of services. We can help you with strain and process development, and then we can help you with GMP manufacture of recombinant proteins, live biotherapeutics, that is your microbiome type projects, and of course with the manufacture of vaccines. Next slide, please. So what is our experience? We have experience in bacterial and yeast fermentation. We do not work with mammalian cells. For mammalian cells, you either go to QGen, as they showed quite earlier, or to Thermo Fisher, who have another plant for production in Brisbane. So we only do bacterial and yeast fermentation. We also do live biotherapeutic, and here we have a very vast expertise. We can do aerobic and anaerobic presentation. We can work with BSL-1, BSL-2. We can also do recombinant proteins. We can do carbohydrates and carbohydrate conjugates. Vaccines, we can do both inactivate vaccines and recombinant vaccines. And of course, we can make plasmids for gene therapy. Next slide, please. So why work with us? We have over 20 years expertise in the pharmaceutical production. We were the manufacturing plant of a biotech, and we did a management buyout 5 years ago, and that created Luina Bio. What can we do for you? We can do strain development, we can do process development, we can then produce the material in GMP for all clinical phases and for all markets. 90% of our production goes abroad. Most of our customers have their clinical trials either in Europe or in the US. Some of our Korean customers have clinical trials here in Korea. We have an experienced project management team who can help you with everything that is involved in the CMC part of your project. We think we're highly cost competitive, and we know we're extremely flexible. We try as hard as physically possible to give you fast access and turnaround times. Also, we can help you with access R&D tax credit. I think this has been explained earlier, and certainly everything we do for you can be claimed under this scheme. Next slide, please. Next slide. So my next slide will look at our resources, which are effectively we have reactors that go between 5 and 500 liters of capacity. We can work as normal or fed batch. We can do tangential for filtration and centrifugation for your purification, homogenizer, chromatography, lyophilization, stability, independent cell bank studies. So effectively, we can take your project from a single vial of a research cell bank and give you the product of 500 liters in GMP. We can take care of all the aspects around there, and therefore you can have a single supplier. Next slide, please. So this is a slide that elicits a lot of interest. It's a cost comparison between working in the US with working with Australia. It was done a few years ago, but if we look at early clinical development and early pharmaceutical development, it's costing $100 in the US. Australia's costs are in the $70 to $72 bracket. And then with the R&D tax refund, we go all the way down to 44%. This gives you a huge saving. Now, whereas this should not be the only reason why you come to Australia. I mean, the quality of the science and the quality and the speed of work also is a very good reason. It is a nice extra reason to come down. I would like now to go through very quick case studies, one illustrating our work with recombinant proteins and one illustrating our work with live biotherapeutics. Next slide, please. So in this case, we were approached by a charity to manufacture a recombinant protein. This was going to be used in clinical trials. And effectively, they came back with a list of amino acids and a string of amino acids. And they said, can we have a few hundred grams for clinical studies? So the first thing that we had to do was to find a way of developing a suitably expressing E. coli strain that needs to be IP-free. We then needed to develop the fermentation conditions because what they had used was something, very typical of university work, meaning it was NPC-link modulated, it had yeast tags. Effectively, it could not be industrialized. But we knew it would form inclusion bodies, which are really not desirable. And it had been done in a few milliliters. And also they had some atypical purification parameters. They wanted very, very low endotoxins. So what did we do? The first thing that we did, we selected a bacterial line and a plasmid that would allow ease of access, fermentation robustness, kanamycin selected, and would give an ease of midstream processing. We managed to select fermentation conditions that allowed expression of the native protein in the periplasmic space. This makes it easier to recover it. We then moved all the way to our 500-liter fermenter, and we changed a lot of our procedures to ensure that the level of endotoxin was minimal. So the result was very flattering. We got a new remnants-induced, kanamycin selected, highly performing plasmid combination. The optimal condition for native expression were determined and then were introduced and scaled up all the way to 500 liters. Because we had a secreted protein, because we worked very hard on purification, we got a slightly over 50% increase in the overall product yield, which of course decreases the price at the end of the day. And the product was then manufactured and released under GMP. It's in the clinic now. We hope it's a very nice product. We hope it will go very far. If the time allows, I would like to move very quickly to live biotherapeutic. That's a microbiome kind of organisms. We have a lot of experience in working with both aerobic or strictly anaerobic strains. We can do effectively everything: cell bank preparation, qualification, fermentation up to the 500 liter, midstream and downstream, lyophilization, packaging. Everything can be done all the way to 100 parts per million oxygen if needed. And this works both with BSL-1 and BSL-2, meaning we can also work with spore formers. We have processes, and most of what we do is actually in single-use equipment, so there is only a limited need. Next slide, please. And again, I think I went ahead, I'm sorry. And again, next slide. Next slide. And next slide. Excellent. So effectively, this So we were asked by a customer to develop a new live biotherapeutic product, which he would like to use in a range of human clinical trials. There were 10 new bacteria. They did not fit with the current legislation and so on. So we had to develop a new system. We have to develop all these anaerobic controls, etc. If you move to the next slide, please. Again, we managed to get the necessary import permits. This is a bureaucracy, but it's effectively very simple to bring things to Australia and to export them from Australia. We created all of the infrastructure necessary for this very, very hard work. And we then applied our process development know-how to these various strains. Next slide. So we produced a suite of 10 lyophilized live biotherapeutic products that were all ahead of the client's viability specification. This is again now in phase 1, and we have been just contacted for another round for phase 2. So this is excellent news for us. The next slide is the last one. And it just says, thank you very much for your for the time, for the presentation. And it has my contact details and our representative in Korea's contact details. Thank you again. Hello.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. So do you have anything to say at the last to our viewers?
I would like to invite everybody to come and see us. This is sadly impossible at the moment, but we have a representative in Korea who would be very happy to come and meet you and discuss any opportunity that you might have and answer any question. And I'm looking forward to Seoul next year. I'm missing kimchi.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope that our companies looking for new opportunities in Australia. I wish there was very meaningful time for the company. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So it was a company that introduced the opportunity to join. Okay, let's move on to the next company. Okay, next, CMAX Clinical Research, and we have Mr. Joe Harrison. You there? CMAX? CMAX has been a leader in delivering early phase clinical trials for over 26 years, making it one of the most respected clinical trial business in Australia. So, Mr. Joe Harrison. Hi, Joe.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Joe. Okay, hi. Okay, thank you very much for thank you very much for joining us live talk. So we're curious about your company. What kind of your company? CMAX.
So I'm Zoe Harrison, and I work at CMAX Clinical Research. We're an early phase clinical research unit in Adelaide, South Australia.
Good. So please begin your presentation.
Absolutely. So thank you for inviting me to speak. I'm very pleased to be able to provide a little bit more detail. CMAX Clinical Research, our mission is to enable advancement of healthcare through clinical research excellence. And we work with sponsors from all around the world on the execution of their clinical trials. So if we could move to the next slide, please. Great. So this slide here is a little bit of a repeat of some of the information that previous presenters have provided. But if you're just tuning in now, it really shows the key reasons why international sponsors choose to come to Australia for their clinical trials. Firstly, Australian trials are known for their quality. We've got robust quality management systems, and the data that we generate can support all international regulatory submissions. In Australia, you don't need to have an open IND to commence a clinical program. And so this is particularly important for for biotechs who need earlier go, no-go decisions and can support future and so it can help support future fundraising activities. In Australia, IRBs, or ethics committees, provide both scientific and ethical review, so they have the authority to approve the study to start. After ethics approval, the TGA, Australia's regulatory agency, is simply notified that the study is about to start under what's called the CTN scheme. And the study is ready to start screening as soon as that notification has been submitted. In addition, the ethics review timelines are very fast and streamlined. So we routinely see these approvals given within 4 to 6 weeks of submission. So this means we can get your program into clinic quite quickly. And then the final and very important point is that Australia has a very attractive R&D tax incentive scheme, which makes trials here very cost competitive. So we find our international sponsors routinely take advantage of this scheme, which, depending on group turnover, can see sponsors receiving up to 43.5% of their eligible R&D spend being returned as a cash refund. Could we have the next slide, please? Great. So this is Adelaide Biomed City. We're located in the heart of Adelaide. That's a city of just over 1.3 million people. And we have a diverse but stable population, so that really supports our clinical trial recruitment. Our unit, which is located on the bottom right-hand corner of this slide, was built just over 4 years ago. And it's located within the Biomed City, which is a life sciences cluster containing many key opinion leaders and specialist services to support our trials. This newly built precinct includes the flagship Royal Adelaide Hospital, which is one of the most advanced public hospitals in the world. Importantly, at the moment, our state has no active cases of COVID-19. So this means that we've been able to continue our important work without too many disruptions. And additionally, we're picking up new programs which were originally intended for facilities in locations where COVID-19 has impacted their operations. Next slide, please. So our key strength, as we see it, is our early phase experience. With over 26 years of operations, CMAX was the first established independent clinical trial unit in Australia. And actually, we were the very first place to conduct a first-in-human healthy volunteer study in Australia over 20 years ago now. Our medical director, Professor Saper Shakib, who's pictured here, heads up our principal investigator team. And he's been an investigator at CMAX for over 20 years. And so the team comprises 5 clinical pharmacologists and some additional specialist investigators in a number of additional indications, including dermatology, anaesthetics, and allergy. And they're ably supported by our research physician team. And this experience also extends to our clinical project management team. We have 7 clinical project managers, and they are the sponsor's primary point of contact throughout the study. With an average of 10 years clinical trial experience between our project managers, they're able to manage the most complex modern-day clinical trial. And they are supported by a further 190 staff who assist with the execution of each study. CMAX itself is headed up by our CEO, Jane Kelly, who, again, has been at CMAX for its full 26 years. And we're proudly owned by the Tokyo-based IROM group of companies. And all of this has delivered us an excellent track record in early phase clinical trials. Last year, we were audited by the US FDA, following which there were no findings. Have the next slide, please. The unit itself is a purpose-built 50-bed facility, and that allows us to accommodate multiple concurrent studies. We're operational 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we can conduct studies with long or short confinement periods. We also have an outpatient suite for follow-up visits and and for end-of-study visits, and that can accommodate 14 outpatients. We have all the equipment that I think you would expect to see in a phase 1 unit, including 24-bed ambulatory cardiac telemetry equipment, 12-lead halters, and lots of other monitoring equipment. Our dedicated recruitment department manages a database of around 27,000 volunteers, and that supports full enrolment of our clinical trials. Fortunately, our location is easy access for our volunteers, which makes follow-up visits also easy. We have really good access to imaging, other specialist procedures within our precinct, including CSF sampling. And we're able to support studies requiring PBMC isolations and flow cytometry by using local laboratory capabilities. We have 2 on-site sample processing laboratories, including 1 PC2 laboratory, which again allows us to conduct GMO or gene therapy studies. We work with the Royal Adelaide Hospital Pharmacy, one of the most advanced hospital-based clinical trial pharmacies in our region, and with a long history of supporting our early phase projects. And then on site, our storage area is secure, temperature monitored and controlled. Next slide, please. So what sort of studies do we complete at CMAX? Well, as I mentioned earlier, much of our work is in the first time in human space, typically single and multiple ascending dose studies, as well as studies requiring intensive PK and PD sampling. Or, for example, drug-drug interaction studies, food effect, and bioavailability studies. We also routinely execute vaccine studies across all phases, QT, QTC protocols, early phase patient studies.
Sorry for interrupting your presentation. Joe, we cannot really hear you at the moment. Now we're checking technical issues. Okay, so we're checking microphone. Can you just take your microphone? Is that okay? Joe, can you please check your microphone?
Yes.
Sound. Yeah, it's almost
Are you
on.
there?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you now. It's on.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
Do you remember the last thing I said?
Oh, I'm sorry. Just previous
No.
slide, maybe.
I'll just, I think the slide it explains all the studies study types that we work on. And really we have a wide range of therapeutic areas and molecule types that we work with. Could I have the next slide, please? So who do we work with? Well, we work with sponsors from all around the world, from very small virtual biotech companies to large pharmaceutical giants. 90% of our work is conducted for international sponsors. And so we consider ourselves a globally oriented company. And so while a large proportion of our work historically has been for the US market, we really are seeing a lot of growth from Asia at the moment, particularly Korea and China. And so here you see that 37% of our revenue for the projects awarded over the last 12 months is from Asia. And so we're really excited about the prospect of continuing to work with our new Korean clients from this region to support their early phase programs. That wraps up what I was going to talk about. I'm very happy to answer any questions. Thank you for listening to this very brief introduction. Our contact details are on the next slide, if you could show that. And we would be very pleased to answer any of your questions, even if it's at the highest level. And we'd also love to stay in touch via LinkedIn. Thanks so much to the BioCareer Committee for organising this live stream.
Okay, thank you very much, Joe, for your wonderful presentation. Oh, we have one question from the live chat room. So I'll try to, it's kind of difficult to understand for me, but I'm going to read it. Is the CMAX clinical research taking any measures to ensure not to enroll COVID-19 positive? and presumptive positive study subjects in its clinical trials?
Sure. Okay, so in Adelaide, where we are, there are currently no active cases of COVID-19. So we're very lucky that the borders are closed and the situation is considered to be very contained within South Australia. So whilst we review our decision on whether we're going to test for COVID-19, we review that decision every week. At the moment, we are not screening our volunteers for COVID-19 because we do not see that there is a clinical need and because we are not convinced it will deliver useful information to us at this time. That being said, for certain studies that require, for the protocol reasons, a negative COVID antibody test, then we will take that path. We are also implementing a lot of controls to restrict access to the unit and obviously social distancing, temperature checking of all of our visitors and reducing the number of people in a space at volunteers in the space at one time. But we're very fortunate that the unit is designed in a way that we have not had to reduce the number of beds that we have available. Does that answer your question?
I think so. That's a good answer, though. I thank you very much. So before I let you go, would you please say to our viewers, like, we'll meet next year, Bio Korea in Seoul, in the venue, in the event hall. So please say to our viewers.
Yes. We're really we're very disappointed that we couldn't come over this year and we're really looking forward to seeing you all next year.
Okay, I hope to see you next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, so again, today's live talk is attended by many promising Australian companies, and it is expected to be very useful for Korean companies wanting to enter the Australian market. So if you have any question, please join our live chat room on YouTube, and I'd like to let you know that you can meet all the participating companies of live talk if you register with this forum of Bio Korea 2020 website, and it will be held till tomorrow. Okay, so let's go to next company, Agilex Biolabs. And Agilex Biolabs, Australia's leading bioanalytical laboratory, has more than 20 years experience in performing regulated bioanalysis, including quality method development, method validation, and simple analysis services. So let's dive into this company, Agilex Biolab. So Mr. Corsale, are you there?
Hello, yes.
Hello, good to see you.
Hello, hi.
Hi, how are you today?
Good, thank you very much.
Okay,
I'd like to begin with by thanking the organisers and Bio Korea for affording us this opportunity to just give you a bit of an idea of the clinical trial situation in Australia, the advantage of bringing your trials to Australia. You've heard from Novatech and CMAX now, and I thought I'd just gloss over some of the Australian advantages to de-risk early phase trials and then focus a bit on the scoping of the landscape for clinical trials in Australia and a bit about our bioanalytical laboratory. So if I could have the first slide, please. Next slide. So really what underpins the Australian advantage, as you'd heard from Novatech and CMAX, really is the quality, speed, and cost. And I'm briefly going to touch on this just because in light of the viewers that might just have joined and have missed the previous couple of talks. Really, in terms of quality, Australian clinical trials, as you'd heard from the previous talk, have been around for over 20 years. And we have an unsurpassed technical quality and regulatory knowledge as a result of that. We have world-class facilities and key opinion leaders and principal investigators that have a breadth of knowledge in the clinical trial space. We conduct the trials to meet global standards as dictated by the FDA and the EMA, And we really are aimed at best practice for our clinical trials. Can I have the next slide, please? So the next slide really is around about the speed of setup. And as you heard from the previous talks, there's no lengthy IND that needs to be undertaken for filing. The clinical trials notification scheme is really a rapid process by which the ethics committee really takes on the burden of the assessment for clinical trials. And really, all that you need is a really good investigator brochure, a protocol, insurance certificates, and really good preclinical and in vitro data to support your first in human study. And all of this then gets evaluated by the ethics committee, and they then make a decision around the safety and governance of the study. After that, the TGA issues a letter of acknowledgement, and you're ready to get your trials set up. So it's a very rapid end-to-end process in Australia to enable you to actually get into the clinic faster and get your drug into the market. Can I have the next slide, please? So the third pillar of the Australian advantage really is the cost. And you'd heard from the previous speakers that the Australian government offers a really attractive 43.5% R&D tax incentive rebate at the moment. And this is really on all activities undertaken for the clinical trial and conducted in Australia. And companies qualify for this if they have less than $20 million worth of annual revenue. And this is essential for small biotech companies that are really in the burning rather than earning phase of their life cycle. And that allows you to your money to stretch a lot further, and you can conduct a lot more trials. Because of the rapid speed in which you can get your trials set up, it's really also important for small companies, enables them to get some really valuable first-in-human data in order to actually then go ahead and file an IND or to move further on into the clinic. Importantly as well, Australia is inherently 15 to 20% cheaper to run a clinical trial than the EU and the US. And so you're not only saving the 43.5%, but you're also saving on the exchange rate and also on the fact that the costs in Australia are inherently less. Could I have the next slide, please? So there's been an unprecedented global impact on COVID-19 since it was first documented way back in 2019. And the blue bubbles really represent the areas globally that have been most effective, where the highest incidence of COVID-19 pandemic actually exists. And you'll see, it's not very clear from the slide, but you'll see down the bottom, Australia has been fortunate enough to be relatively unscathed for COVID-19. Next slide, please. So the huge impact that COVID-19 has actually had has caused a lot of the clinical trials to either be delayed or shut down. So many clinical sites globally have had to shut down. Many of the hospitals are closed because they're concentrating on treating patients that are positive with COVID-19. And this has globally had a huge impact on the clinical trial scene. However, in Australia, we've been relatively lucky that we haven't been as impacted, and for us, business as usual. And this really has allowed us to still enable our clients to move their trials forward despite the current situation we find ourselves in. Next slide, please. And really, the reason why Australia has managed to get to where it is we had a really rapid response right at the beginning of COVID-19. We had an immediate lockdown, shutting of the borders, and quarantining of incoming passengers as well. And this has really meant that we could actually cut the spread of the COVID-19 epidemic, quite early on. And we're now at the tail end of it. As the previous speaker mentioned, in South Australia, where Agilex Biolabs laboratories are, we have no active cases at the moment. So we're now at the stage where we're starting to get into a new norm where everything is being rolled back. We're now seeing restaurants opening up for business, pubs now opening up in Australia for business, and public facilities slowly opening up with social distancing in mind. So there's still a certain quota of people per square meter, but we are now seeing that things are starting to roll back, and we're getting back to almost a level of normality. Next slide, please. So Australia is open for business. The clinical trials industry has been designated an essential services, and the hospitals are really treating only sort of those cases that are have the highest potential for inflammatory reactions, etc. Next slide, please. So really, why Australia? So if we consider what you need for a clinical trial, Australia has all of it. We have world-class bioanalytical laboratories. They're all FDA, EMA compliant. We have central laboratories that can do all the safety bloods. We have a variety of CROs. We work with all of them, and each of them have the ability to conduct trials within the Asia-Pacific region and also within Australia. We have major hospitals that are able to undertake various different patient studies, and we also have access to clinical trial insurers and regulatory consultants to enable the trial to be set up more rapidly. And we have world-class phase 1 units, and each of them have the capacity to be able to conduct a variety of studies. So the final slide I really want to focus on, if I could have the next slide, please, is a little bit about our company, Agilex Biolabs. We're the leading bioanalytical laboratory in Australia. We've been around for over 20 years. We conduct bioanalysis for both small and large molecules alike. And the large molecule laboratories that I manage, we work a lot with Korean clients, biosimilars and immuno-oncology. And this slide just gives a little bit of a flavor of Agilex Biolabs and our capabilities, LCM, SMS, immunoassays and biomarkers. And we'd be really happy to be able to engage with Korean biotech companies to be able to provide capability statements and also presentations on our capabilities. So if I could have the final slide, please. If any of this is of interest, our contact details for our Vice President of Business Development is found on this last slide. And if you please contact Julia Jones in the first instance, she would be more than happy to provide our slide deck, capability discussions, and some white papers that we have ready to go for clients within the region. And I'd be really happy to take any questions on the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I listened to your presentation very well, very useful, informative. Okay, so you mentioned that you've been working with a Korean company. So which Korean company are you working with?
Well, I don't know that I'm privy to say the company's name out loud, just for confidentiality purposes. But we are working with a variety of Korean companies that are busy developing biosimilars, and also companies that are developing immuno-oncology drugs. So we're really happy to work with South Korea as we do with everybody globally. And we're just very disappointed that we couldn't be there in person this year to be able to network and meet with everyone in Seoul. Hopefully next year we'd be in a better position to be able to come over and meet everyone for BioKorea 2021.
It's excellent. I hope to see you next year and the event hall and the venue. Thank you very much, Kurt.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Have a good day. Yeah, as you mentioned, I hope that this live talk will provide a valuable opportunity to strengthen cooperation between two countries. Thank you very much for your presentation. Moving on to the next company, St. Vincent Hospital Melbourne. And St. Vincent Hospital Melbourne is one of the 5 tertiary teaching hospitals in Victoria with a respected clinical education and clinical research program. And the clinical care is supported by an inspiring and very active translational research program. So at this time, everyone, Ms. Megan Robertson. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much for joining us. Say hello to our viewers, because our viewers are getting bigger and bigger on our YouTube channel. So, say hello.
Wonderful.
Good.
Thank you very much. We're delighted to be here.
Okay. So, would you please give us more detail about your company, hospital?
Certainly. Thank you very much. So I want to move our focus from Adelaide, where the last 2 speakers have been speaking from, around to talk about clinical trial opportunities in Melbourne, and also move out of the first, phase 1 healthy volunteer studies, but more into early phase patient studies. I'd like to talk about the clinical trial opportunities available in Melbourne. Melbourne has a very diverse population of 5 million people who are supported by an extensive network of health services who are strongly research active. If we look at our federal research funding, just under 50% of that funding annually comes to Victoria, which is the state home of Melbourne. So Melbourne really is the centre for health and medical in Australia. Hospital Melbourne, which I represent, is celebrating 125 years of activity this year. We are part of the largest not-for-profit health provider in, sorry, can you go on to the next slide? Thank you. We are, as I said, part of the largest not-for-profit health provider in Australia. We are the 12th largest private company of any type in Australia, and we have 30 facilities that run up the eastern seaboard of Australia. St Vincent's Hospital Melbourne is an adult, acute and subacute tertiary university affiliated hospital. We're a teaching hospital of the University of Melbourne, and we have affiliations and links with over 15 other Australian universities. Our areas of expertise are this slide, include neuroscience, oncology and haematology, gastroenterology, endocrinology and cardiology. Next slide, please. We are part, as I said, of St Vincent's Health Australia. Now, St Vincent's Research Australia incorporates all the clinical trials that are being done across St Vincent's Health Australia. And as well as being the Director of Research at St Vincent's Hospital Melbourne, I am the Group Chief Research Officer for St Vincent's Health Australia. Across St Vincent's Health Australia, we have over 2,000 active clinical studies running at any time and over 500 active clinical trials. Every year we care for over 328,000 patients, providing more than 1 million episodes, and we do 18 surgeries. Our network includes 6 public hospitals, 10 private hospitals, 20 aged care facilities, 3 co-located medical research institutes, and across Australia more than 20 affiliated universities. Our healthcare facilities provide over 3,000 hospital beds with over 20,000 employees and more than 15,000 dedicated researchers. Next slide, please. St Vincent's Hospital Melbourne will be the site. The Aikenhead Centre for Medical Discovery is currently in construction. It will be the first dedicated bioengineering research institute located within a tertiary hospital facility in Australia. This will speed our ability to do bench to bedside and really highlight our position at the forefront of medical device translation as well as pharmaceutical studies. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now, people have already been over the benefits of clinical trials in Australia, so I will not labour this slide, but I will say that we have rapid startup, no requirement for IND, require IND in Australia to cover the majority of Australia due to our unique National Mutual Acceptance Program. Next slide, please. At St Vincent's Hospital, Melbourne, we have developed a unique service to assist people and companies in coming to Australia who are doing clinical trials. We have what is termed a valet service, which provides expert staff to assist you with your HREC or IRB document preparation and submission. So all we need from you is your protocol and your IB, and we can prepare the documents for you to submit for HREC. Not only do we submit to the HREC, we work in close communication with you, fast and easy the submission and personalised expert assistance with the response to queries. Fast turnaround time with 30 days from meeting to final approval as our target, and many of our studies come in well under that. The fastest turnaround we have had is 48 hours for approval. Next slide, please. If you go to our link, our kiosk in the virtual exhibition, you will find all the details about the valet service described in our brochure in Korean, along with the costings. Now, the Ethics Committee and the valet service at St Vincent's submits to the St Vincent's Ethics Committee, which is approved for national mutual acceptance. But more importantly than that, we are the only public HREC in Australia that meets every 2 weeks all year. So there is a vet applications and rapid turnaround. Thank you. Next slide. This is the team, the ethics team, and the contact details are on the back of the brochure, which you can access through our kiosk and through the virtual exhibition. Thank you. Next slide. In addition to the research valet, we have also, Hospital Melbourne has also worked with government to develop a link that explains clinical trials in Victoria and access to our service providers and our clinical sites for clinical trials. This is called the Victorian Clinical Trials Gateway, and this is available in English, Chinese, and Korean. Next slide, please. The Clinical Trials Gateway aims to explain the benefits of clinical trials in Australia and to also provide you with links to important documents that will explain the processes and who you can contact to get assistance in the clinical trials setting in Australia. Next slide, please. When you enter the Clinical Trials Gateway, you will find that there is a very simple section of trials in Australia, the benefits of doing them in Victoria, and also some different areas that you may wish to explore. Next slide, please. So, for example, if the home page enables you to go straight, it's got a very straightforward navigation. For example, you may wish to look at sites which provide advice on how to set up your company in Australia in order to get access the R&D tax credits. If you want to get onto that, there will be explanations about that and also how you go about accessing that. Alternatively, you may want information about standardised contracts. In Australia, most clinical trial sites, hospital sites, use standardised contracts which greatly reduced the time required for contract development and review. Next slide. Sorry. So here you can see we've gone into the page that describes the the R&D tax credits. If you are a company that has less than 20 million in revenue per annum, then you are eligible for a 43.5% tax rebate on all your clinical trial activity, in fact, all your research activity, and in some cases that may include preclinical work as well, even when it is done overseas if it is not available to be done in Australia. So this provides an explanation of it. It also provides information about where you can get more information. Next slide, please. Thank you. We go on to the next slide? Yes. Sorry. So if we go into here, you can find more information about Victoria. So when you go into that, information about specific types of benefits there are, the no INDs, the HREC, you can click on the side into a directory. That will give you a list of services that are relevant to that specific type of advice. So for example, if you're looking at the R&D tax credits, it will provide you with a link to Victorian companies who can provide you with that advice. If you click on those companies, it will provide you with a 200-word summary and direct contact details into each of those companies. Next slide, please. So this is part of our directory where you can see, you can see different companies listed there. If you click onto the directory, that will take you into the details of those companies, so the people who speak to. In addition, service providers and industry, there is also a list of clinical sites and who to contact in those clinical sites if you are interested in exploring clinical trials with them. There are over 25 clinical sites listed, and they include paediatrics, adults, private sites, and a variety of other specialty areas, including women's health and oncology. Next slide, please. As you can see here, when you go into the detail, this is the detail about St Vincent's Hospital, Melbourne. Whoops, we've missed one. You will get a 200-word summary and then this specific contact information for you. The Gateway Communications collaterals can support your clinical trial connections. So if you can share the information amongst your colleagues, you can talk to them about who they've spoken to, information. So for our final slide, you'll see that we've listed the Research Valet. This is our contact details. We have our dedicated website, a dedicated email, and direct phone contact as well. Please contact us to speak about your clinics in Melbourne and talk to benefits. And if it's not appropriate for instance, we assist you with this process, we can introduce you to other clinicians and KOLs who are appropriate for your studies. But we look forward to hoping you in Melbourne at some stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your very detailed presentation. Yes, very useful. I really enjoy your presentation. So viewers, the internet condition is sometimes not really working well. Since it's been held in online platform, so please kindly understand that situation. Thank you very much. So thank you very much. So for those of you who are interested in this company, please visit our website. There will be more detail. Thank you very much. I'll let you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next company I'd like to introduce is Orthocell. Hopefully that's correct pronunciation. Orthocell is, correct, thank you. Regenerative medicine company dedicated to the development of novel collagen medical devices and cellular therapies for the repair and regeneration of human tendons, bone, nerve, and collagen defects. It sounds very interesting. So, Mr. Paul Anderson, hi.
Yeah, good morning or good afternoon. How are we all?
Yeah, good. So, orthocell, is it correct?
Correct, yeah, orthocell, correct.
Oh, good, very good. So, please begin your presentation.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much for the opportunity to present today, and thank you for the efforts in making sure that we're able to continue to communicate in these sometimes challenging times. Paul Anderson is my name. I'm the CEO of Orthocell and one of the foundation members. We are an ASX listed company. We are based here in Australia, specifically in Western Australia, which puts us on the same time zone from Beijing right through to KL. So, ideally positioned in the Asian region to develop our company. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. So regenerative medicine, we work specifically in the musculoskeletal regenerative medicine space. What is regen med? I think most people understand that the regenerative medicine space is really about moving away from simple repair mechanisms and moving into an area where we can replace, engineer, regenerate tissues and organs and restore normal function. And why have we specifically chosen the musculoskeletal space is obviously our background is in that area in orthopedics, but we know that we have an aging population in Western society. We know that there's a strong demand now for safe, efficient and cost-effective treatments that really address the underlying pathologies that cause these problems. And it's designed to take a micro view as opposed to a macro view and just fix it with a suture. We're really looking at addressing those underlying pathologies. And so we find ourselves in a position as one of the world leading companies in musculoskeletal regenerative medicine and really have first in class and a very advanced portfolio of products. Next slide, please. Effectively, our product portfolio, if you look at the regeneration of human musculoskeletal tissue, often that tissue requires either a collagen-based or a scaffold to support that tissue repair. And in some cases, it requires a cellular level therapy to affect that tissue repair. And on occasions, it requires a combination of those two together. And as a consequence of that design thesis, we went about developing a collagen-based medical device, which is for tissue reconstruction and is designed to augment the repair, the surgical repair of soft tissue. Our focus initially has been on bone regeneration, and we've recently had a CE mark for our product for guided bone regeneration and soft tissue reconstruction, which is a major milestone for our company. We are now driving these products both into the Australian marketplace, but also into the US marketplace, and have recently announced to the market our submission for clearance within the US market. Which is very exciting. And we then have, and I'll explain in some slides to follow, a further interest in the area of tendon repair, and in particularly excited about the latest development, and very exciting that I'm going to inform you today about our nerve repair. And the second piece of our technology, the cellular therapy side of it, is we've developed a first-in-class autologous cellular therapy for the regeneration of human tendon tissue. We harvest tendon cells, tenocytes from the patient. We expand their volume in a GMP, TGA, Therapeutic Goods Administration licensed facility, and we inject those cells directly back into the tendon body via an ultrasound-guided way, providing a cellular interaction to address the underlying pathology that lies there. So we use these products separately, and we're now also using these products in combined way, where we're combining CellGrow, our collagen medical device, with our Ortho ATI in a combined product. But today, next slide, please, if I can. But today, what I really want to talk to you about and give you some information about is this exquisite product called CellGrow, the most elegant collagen-based medical device today in the marketplace, and one of the only collagen medical devices that has actually been developed by a regenerative medicine company. We understand the interaction of a collagen medical device and the tissue, and importantly, we understand the degradation and the integration profile and the ultrastructure, as you can see on the screen, of this collagen medical device to optimise our outcomes and clinical performance. Next page, please. As I mentioned, next slide, please. Yep, as I mentioned, we have a tripartite approach, bone regeneration, but not which has been approved in market in Europe and is showing a 26% improvement in bone quality, outstanding clinical results, which is now getting good clinical traction in that market. The second focus has been on a collagen-based medical device that is designed to augment the repair of tendons and ligaments. And we've recently completed our initial clinical study here in Australia, and we showed that 89% of patients returned to work and recreation pain-free following our intervention. And importantly, in that study of 15 patients, not one of them that had a revision or a failure out to 2 years. So very important biological augment to the surgeon's great work that he does in the repair. But one of the really exciting aspects about what we're doing is we've now translated this technology into the regeneration and repair of peripheral nerves, where we see crushed, severed nerves or spinal injuries that impairing the nerve conduction to the limbs. And I want to talk to you a little bit about this very exciting piece. Next slide, please. So we know that traditionally nerve repair is quite a challenge. We traditionally take the two nerves, we join them together, and we use a needle and thread to plunge that needle into the nerve tissue to try and pull those nerves back together. Somewhat primitive and archaic, let's be clear. So what we looked for was to design a method that enabled us to have compliancy, flexibility, and the ability to reduce the numbers of surgeries, sutures, to have a tensionless repair in what is a very, very large market where the existing products are inferior in functionality and handling and do not provide a consistent or predictable outcome to the surgeon or the patient. And this is a very frustrating piece. So we see great demand for improved approaches and outcomes. Next slide, please. So effectively what we do is we're able to take a sheet of this very particular collagen structure that is very strong, it's very flexible, and provides an outstanding bioactive chamber protecting this repairing nerve from the outside tissue that can ingrow and cause fibrosis. It enables us to customise and have precision medicine to each and every one of these nerves in the varying sizes and the varying shapes that are required to heal these. And effectively what we're doing, we're joining these nerves together without the use of damaging sutures. We're joining these nerves together with precision using this collagen medical device, and we're providing a bioactive chamber that enables the nerve fibres to connect along an elegant railway of fibres provided by the collagen medical device. And what we've seen from that is some outstanding clinical results. And I'd like to go to the next slide, please. We have now translated this technology into a very, very difficult patient group. And I'm delighted to inform the audience that we recently announced some interim data where we treated 12 patients, and we have 12-month follow-up on those patients, where we are taking quadriplegic patients, tetraplegic patients who have lost the abilities of their arms and their limbs, and we're able to replumb nerves and do nerve transfers from pectoral and thoracic areas and re-innovate muscles within their arm to give them function back again. And we showed in this clinical study that we were able to, 96% of nerve repairs restored voluntary movement. I can use my wheelchair. I can brush my teeth. I can hug my children. I can use my iPhone, which is so important in today's society. So these patients have their normal activities of daily living somewhat restored. They're able to drive their cars and to get around. These are exciting outcomes. And one of the really important pieces for this is that we are now providing predictability of outcome and a more rapid improvement of their return to function than we've ever seen previously. And so we're very excited about what we believe is a groundbreaking breakthrough product that we're now moving towards. Next slide, please. That we're now moving towards introduction into the US market via an application through the FDA, as well as into the European and the Australian marketplaces. And as you can see from our upcoming catalysts, we have a focus on international regulatory approvals and product development for all three facets of bone, tendon and nerve repair. But obviously the nerve repair, as you've just seen, is an incredibly exciting project that we've recently pivoted and decided to accelerate into the market. And so we're very pleased about that. I might also note that in partnership with Johnson & Johnson, we are also driving our ortho-ATI cellular therapy forward. And we have a study that we're doing with Johnson & Johnson and that we're also moving into an IND submission for the FDA. Next slide, please. And last but not least, OrthoCell, as I mentioned, is an ASX-listed company. We have over $20 million in the bank. We are capitalised and have the funds to execute on this next exciting phase. And really the company is now moving from an R&D phase. Next slide, please. Moving from an R&D phase now into an execution phase. And you can see from this last slide, next slide, please. And you can see from our last slide that there is significant upside in this company, that we have largely de-risked our portfolio of products with many patients treated now, moving into these international markets. And importantly to note, we own our manufacturing. We have GMP facilities. We've conducted the clinical manufacturing in-house, and we have learned how to optimize our manufacturing process as a result of that. And last but not least, we have a highly credentialed international team with board members in the US, in Europe, Australia and in Asia, representing the skill sets required to drive these technologies forward in the very near future. Thank you very much for your attention. Cheers.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I heard that sound. Alarm is ringing. Thank you very much.
Great.
Yeah, wonderful. You got the time perfectly. Thank you very much for your presentation. I hope to see you next year in Korea.
Look, thanks very much for the opportunity. Delighted to be a part of it, and very much disappointed we weren't able to get up to Korea to engage with the fantastic people up there, eat the wonderful food, and enjoy all the technological aspects of South Korea as well. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, next is for linear clinical trials. And as a world-class leader, linear clinical research, Linear is a proposed built state-of-the-art clinical trials facility operating out of QE2, a medical center in Perth, Western Australia, and conceived as a focal point for Australian clinical and medical research. And Linear is making innovative therapies available to the local community. So, are you there, Mr. Dogal Sring?
Yes, I am. Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yay. Yeah, I can hear you. So
Wonderful.
Please begin. Yeah, good. Thank you very much for joining us. So please begin your presentation.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to have this opportunity to present to everyone virtually this time around. So I appreciate the opportunity to do this on behalf of Linear. So we'll jump to the next slide, please. So Linear Clinical Research is an early phase clinical research group based in Perth in Western Australia. So we know OrthoCell, the previous presenter, very well, which is great. I suppose the key success for Linear is that we are unusually a not-for-profit entity, a wholly owned subsidiary of the Harry Perkins Institute of Medical Research, which is the premier basic research group in Western Australia, so adult research. And we were established back in 2010 as really a mixed group to help with translational activities within the state of Western Australia. And it's been very exciting to see of recent years being actually able to translate around 3 innovations out of the Perkins Institute through Linear into clinical studies. In addition to that, we were established to really be put on the map as an option to bring innovative medicines to the state of Western Australia for patients to access these novel medicines. And that brings about our very patient-centric approach to early phase research. We are in addition to that, we are a revenue generator. We are a revenue generator for the Perkins Institute, which is beneficial, obviously, for future research activities for the Perkins. The benefit that Linear has from a collaborative perspective in Western Australia is really being on the amazing precinct that is the QE2 Medical Centre. So as you can see in this picture, we can see in the background the city of Perth, so it's around 5 kilometres away, just across Kings Park, which is the largest city park in the Southern Hemisphere. Beautiful place in the world. You can see there's the Swan River State in the background. And the QE2 houses a number of substantial institutes, which includes Linear, of course, and we are co-located with the Sir Charles Gardner Hospital, which is a 600-bed tertiary hospital within the state, so the second largest and the largest north of the river within Perth. We're also co-located with a private hospital, which is Hollywood Private Hospital, which is a 738-bed institute. As well as the Perth Children's Hospital, which is a 400-bed paediatric institute. And we really do collaborate with investigators across these institutions as well as other institutions within the state. Additionally, on site within the QE2 Institute, which brings about a lot of collaborative opportunities, are therapeutic-specific groups that Linear is able to access and collaborate with. Those include the Lions Eye Institute, which is the largest ophthalmology centre within the Southern Hemisphere, seeing over 65,000 patients per year. And we do collaborate with them on ophthalmic specific phase 1 research activities. We're also involved heavily with the Perrin Institute, which looks at neuromuscular research activities. They are located within the Sarich Neuroscience Institute, which also houses really a focal point for Alzheimer's disease research within the state. Our parent company, the Harry Perkins Institute, has their northern facility located on site as well, where we do take up some space. And they house a number of groups, including the Heart Research Institute, the Institute of Respiratory Health, and a number of other groups that we do liaise very closely with. With this sort of diverse ability to engage with a large number of investigators, we obviously do touch on a very large number of therapeutic areas. We might go to the next slide, actually, if that's okay. We are co-located with the Western Australia State Cancer Centre, and that really has brought about some benefits to Linear in the oncology research space. So Linear does now see as a single site the most early phase oncology trials out of any single site in the country, currently running around 52 clinical trials across solid tumour and heme-onc. You can go to the next slide if that's possible. In addition to oncology, we do touch on another sort of 18 other therapeutic areas, and that is run by typically through our early phase teams. So we are set up with our oncology group, which is Linear Cancer Trials, We have 2 early phase teams that look after our first in human non-oncology trials, so our typical dose escalation type studies. We have a late phase team that is late phase in, I suppose, early phase terms, which looks after anything from phase 1B through to phase 3 studies. That group is quite successful in patient recruitment because I do have a substantial benefit in being able to create an extensive subspecialist network across the state of Western Australia, which has allowed us to engage with the State Health Department to allow us access to subspecialist physicians, as well as the patient populations that do sit under them. So Linear has been very successful in certain orphan condition recruitment through our late phase group, as well as a broad range of therapeutic areas. We additionally have a vaccines team, so they have been looking after all of our high volume, long-term follow-up studies, which obviously includes vaccines. We have been successful in securing a very large COVID-19 vaccine study, which is currently we're about a few weeks away from dosing volunteers, which is very exciting. So collaborating with Clover Biopharma out of China, who are also partnered with GSK and a couple of other companies. So Linear is taking that study as a single site opportunity, which is absolutely amazing. In vaccines, we have a very close collaboration with the Telethon Kids Institute, which is a pediatric-focused research institute. So we have an ability to quickly transition from adult early-stage studies into running feasibilities into adolescent and pediatric populations. Professor Peter Richmond, who does come on board as consultant or principal investigator to a lot of our vaccine studies, will take on transition them across into pediatrics. Linear is also the only site in Australia that is on an eSource platform, which is one of our very substantial differentiators. This means that data is available remotely, which has been fantastic through the COVID-19 restrictions that we have seen. So this allows sponsors very efficient access to data that is collected bedside within our phase 1 institute. So our institute is a 32-bed institute. We're in the process of expansion to create separate space for our oncology work. The other core focus, I think, that everyone has really touched on from an Australian perspective is in clinical research anyway, is the efficient timelines that we're able to generate from submission to screening of volunteers, which ordinarily is around 4 to 6 weeks. For anything that is COVID related or COVID indicated, we can reduce that down to within 1 to 2 weeks. So we have a very substantial agreement with our ethics committee to allow that. That is, I suppose, Linear as a group and an institute. We do employ over 200 individuals across our group, currently running just over around 70 trials at this point in time. So. And around about 40 new studies every year are initiated through the group. We're certainly open to questions and look forward to speaking with you. If you go to the next slide, you can see that we're a very diverse group from a geographical perspective. We have a substantial client base in Asia, around about 35% of our group. And please feel free to get in contact directly with me. I leave my details on the last slide. Or visit our website at linear.org.au. And I'm more than happy to take any questions if there are any at this point in time.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Before I let you go, Could you please say a few words to our viewers that next year, hopefully, we can see you all here in Seoul, via Korea?
Oh, absolutely. I was very disappointed when all of the timing of the COVID-19 outbreak. I was very much looking forward to getting back to Seoul to Bio Korea to network and engage with not just new Korean clients, but also a couple of the current clients that we're managing trials for at the moment. So it is very disappointing, but my taste buds are certainly looking forward to coming back.
Okay, see you next year, Bio Korea 2021 in Seoul.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you very much. So it has been linear clinical trials. Okay, next, moving on to the next company, CSIRO. Well, the CSIRO, Commonwealth Scientific Industrial Research Organization, is Australia's National Research Institute, and its mission is to work with industry and research partners to support and develop solutions to global problems. So now we invited Mr. Jonathan Space. Hi, Jonathan.
Hi, how's it going?
It's
Thank
good.
you for the introduction. And yes, excellent pronunciation of my name as well. So your English
Thank
is
you.
much better than my Korean.
Jonathan Space.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, if you speak Korean, any Korean, please say.
Only 안녕하세요 and
it's
감사합니다.
good.
That is
Very
about
good.
my the extent, but you know, I'm always happy to learn. So
Okay.
maybe in the future.
Sure, please begin.
Sure. I can't see my slides on the screen, but maybe at the moment I'm having I don't see anything, but maybe I've got the slide set in front of me, so I'll have to just work through my slides and hope that they're the same. At the moment, I've just got a black screen for my slides, but it could be something to do with my system. So yeah, but I'll just work through them. So if we're on the title slide that says CSIRO One Health, is that the one? Great. So yeah, CSIRO, we're the Australian government research organisation, and yeah, our main goal is our main mission is to partner with industry to solve industry problems, and we've been doing that for a very long period of time. Can we go to the next slide, please? And we're globally in the top 1% of research organisations. We have well over 5,000 staff, and we have locations as shown on the slide throughout Australia, and we have a range of different facilities, and we're always a big promoter and champion of scientific research and the importance of scientific research in solving industry problems. And it's a good point to note there below that scientific research provides a 5-to-1 return on investment. So it is one of the best bets that you can find for delivering impact. So if we go to the next slide, please. And you'll see there the slide on COVID-19. So at the CSIRO, we are actively involved in the global mission on the response to COVID-19, and we are working on a range of different areas, from first learning about the virus to assisting with the development, the testing and development of vaccines, other analytics such as tracking of spread, and working on diagnostics and exploring manufacturing options for the future when we do have a viable vaccine to produce, as well as analysing antivirals which may work on patients who have COVID-19. So we are actively supporting the global response, and we always welcome inquiries and collaboration with partners on that effort. So if we go to the next slide, please. So a lot of the work on COVID-19 and on infectious diseases is done at our facility in Geelong, the Australian Centre for Disease Preparedness. That is a BSL 4 facility, and in the past has worked on many different dangerous pathogens, such as working on Ebola, swine flu, bird flu, and now COVID-19. If we go to the next slide, please. And at the moment, the problem is pretty clear that zoonotic diseases are a constant threat globally. There's been 30 new zoonotic diseases in the last 20 years. And COVID-19 only highlights the ongoing dangers around zoonotic diseases. And we have a world-class facility which is at the forefront of scientific research into infectious diseases. Again, we always welcome inquiries and collaboration, and we do collaborate with a range of partners within Australia and internationally on working on infectious diseases. Next slide, please. So within CSIRO's history, we have a model where we are about 50. I won't say 50-50, but we're close to 50-50 in terms of government and industry funding. And so we get funding support from the Australian government, but we also earn revenue from partnering with external industry, and also through development of intellectual property and commercialization, such as startups and spin-outs and partnerships and joint ventures. And so, for example, some of the things that you might be aware of that CSIRO has played a part in the invention of, or the creation of technologies such as the antiviral drug Relenza, also the extended wear contact lenses, and Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi being one of the big ones there as well, and a number of different contributions over the years to health and biosecurity, and we've done that in partnership with industry. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned, we have the facility down in Geelong, which is the Australian Centre for Disease Preparedness, and it is a very large BSL-4 facility, has over 300 staff, small and large animal facility, and that's at the moment, the hub of our COVID-19 activity around testing of vaccines and antivirals and diagnostics. As well as that, I myself am based in Brisbane, which is a bit further north, and we have a wonderful facility that is a plant and animal quarantine facility, which is a partnership with the Queensland State Government, and we work on a number of invasive species which are a threat to Australia's environment and agriculture, and we do a lot of research on protecting our borders from those threats. So if we go to the next slide, please. And I'm going to talk today about a few of the technology areas in the research program that I am working in. I'll talk about 5 key technology platforms that I think are relevant to BioKorea. There are a number more, but I think that these ones are the 5 key areas. So if we go to the next slide, please. So diagnostics and COVID-19 again has highlighted the importance of diagnostics and the importance of diagnostics in terms of testing, identifying, and being able to take action to limit spread of virus. And what we're focused on within our diagnostic platform, which is called DiagBios, is we're focusing on host biomarkers, which react very early to disease prior to an immune response, and before detectable levels of virus or bacteria, depending on the test, are present in a sample. And the benefits here are, being able to potentially detect the disease, say for COVID-19 in day 2, where generally the incubation period is 5-7+ days. So essentially, you have 3 days there where a patient or infected person could be transmitting the virus, where a test such as ours has the ability to pick that up. So that's something that is under development in terms of biomarkers within the DiagBios platform for COVID-19, and also but across animal and human health, with the other area that we're looking at of mastitis in dairy cattle. Next slide, please. Another area that we're looking at, or another platform area for us, is we call Veradicate, which is our novel vaccine and therapeutic drug discovery platform. So we're focused on a few key areas there, which are repurposed drugs for antiviral use, also screening for vaccine and therapeutic drug targets. And so we have capability there for high throughput screening of host molecules for infectious disease, so that we are focused on at the moment, or there's a few key areas that we are focused on there, but we're welcome to talk more about that via email or inquiry. Next slide, please. Another area that we are in is optimizing cell lines for vaccine production. So vaccines, many vaccines now are produced via cell lines, but cell lines are quite costly and still have limitations in the amount of vaccine, or the amount of virus that can be grown or vaccine that can be produced. And this obviously creates pressures on supply and demand and cost. So we're focused on removing the inhibitors within cell vaccine production to produce more in a shorter period of time. So that area is called optimized cell lines. Next slide, please. We're also heavily focused in areas such as disease resistance and in animal health. So aquaculture genetic technologies is an area which we are also very much focused on in using techniques such as genome engineering via CRISPR and other methods to focus on the development of fish or other marine marine life that is farmed for consumption to produce seafood lines that are have a lower chance of or lowered risk of catching a particular disease, and also looking at other traits like growth rates and areas such as heat tolerance as well. With with global warming, areas such as the abalone industry, heat resistance is a larger issue. So with technologies such as genome engineering, we can focus on alleviating those problems for industry. Next slide, please. And parallel to aquaculture is poultry, and that's an area again that we do a lot of work in poultry genetics. One of the recent technologies that we have produced is enhanced vaccine production in eggs. Influenza vaccine, for example, is produced in eggs, and there are limitations in how much can be produced. And so we've successfully developed production lines of chickens that lay eggs that remove again the inhibitors for viral growth and vaccine production. But other areas such as looking at traits like egg allergies to produce allergen-free eggs, so that people who are currently allergic to eggs can enjoy eggs and eat them quite safely. And it is a large issue for parents and their children, with anywhere up to 5% of children, depending on country, could be allergic to eggs at a young age, which then limits the whole family from eating them. So we're developing lines of chickens that lay allergen-free eggs. And then, of course, looking at areas such as avian influenza that, still present a massive problem. And so we're looking at building, creating breeding lines that tackle that problem. Next slide. So I'm pretty much about to wrap it up. But so within the CSIRO, as I mentioned, we have over the years, our scientific research has led to many number of successful technology developments, and our main mission is to partner and to help industry grow and to tackle global problems. We are focused on a range of missions at the moment as well within the organisation, which do focus on global industry problems and global health and environmental problems. And we always welcome discussion and collaboration on those areas. Korea is one of our great partners in research and in travel, pre and hopefully and post COVID, when we can start traveling again and trade. And I personally visited Korea last year at BioKorea and really enjoyed the event. And we always welcome and enjoy working with our research partners in Korea. So that's the end of my talk. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to ask them now, or more than happy to talk offline or via email.
Okay, thank you very much. I really enjoy your presentation. Thank you very much for your detail. So
Thank
due
you.
to time limits, maybe
Yes.
we have to move on next. But before that, as you said, hope to see you in person in Korea sooner. So, we are actually making promotional video with our participants for BioKorea next year in Seoul. So, Jonathan, is it correct?
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
would you please repeat this? Yeah, you can just look at the camera. So, see you at BioKorea next year in Seoul. Could you do me
See
a
you at
favor?
BioKorea next year
Yeah.
in Seoul.
So we are now making a promotion video for the next year's participants. Okay. So
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you. So look, yeah, I'll be looking forward to it, and you know, thank you everyone. And yeah, so hopefully I've helped make up a little bit of time now as well with the presentation. But I'm very happy to go through in more detail with anyone who's interested. And again, thank you everyone for organising the event, and it's been a great experience. To try out virtual event like we've got this year round. So it's been great. Thank you everyone very much.
Thank you. And say see you at BioKorea next year in Seoul, please.
And see you at BioKorea next year in Seoul, everybody. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you. 감사합니다.
감사합니다. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so moving on to the next company. We have two more companies left for today. Next is Nucleus Network, and Jeffrey Wang is now ready for the presentation. And this company is Australia's largest phase 1 clinical research organization and the only phase 1 specialist globally with phase 1 facilities in the US and Australia. So, Nucleus Network, hi.
Hello, can you see me?
Oh, yes, I can see you now. Yeah, are you in? Are you on there?
I sure am.
Yeah,
Hi.
good to see you. Great.
Likewise.
So you are the last speaker of Australian companies today. So
Oh, fantastic.
look forward to your presentation. Please begin.
Excellent. 안녕하세요. Hi, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Wong, and I'm the Director of Business Development at Nucleus Network. As per the introduction, Nucleus Network is Australia's largest and only multi-site operation when it comes to early phase clinical trials. And we are Australia's leading clinical research organization in several ways. Next slide, please. So as you can see from this summary slide deck, it really helps to encapsulate the essence of Nucleus Network itself. We are the leading experts in early phase clinical trials because we are primarily the most experienced operation in Australia, having operational experience since 2005. So 15 to 16 years of operational experience itself. Not only are we the largest, we are also the only multi-site operating across two major cities in Australia, in Melbourne, as well as in Brisbane as well. Throughout the course of these 16 years, we have conducted in excess of 700 clinical trials. Each year, on average, we conduct about 60 to 70 clinical trials, and about 50% of them are your true first-in-human studies, which is the reason why we claim to be the specialists when it comes to early phase clinical trials, surely because of our experience in the variety of early phase trials itself. We also obviously offer quality service as well. And by quality, it is also verified by the fact that we have been inspected by the FDA and EMA. The most recent inspection is way back in 2017, and that's by both FDA and EMA. Inspection is great, obviously, but the more important thing is that we have no major 483 findings. There were only minor recommendations, as you can expect from any inspection. Next slide, please. As I've mentioned before, one thing to really note about Australia is that it is a huge country, but it's a very small population, and most of the population are concentrated within urban areas itself, within major cities. So because of that, our operation is also focused on operating within major cities. We currently operate within the second and the third largest city in Australia, being in Melbourne, where we have an 80-bed facility located right next to the Alfred Hospital itself. The Alfred Hospital is a tertiary teaching hospital with about 800 beds. On the contrary, up in Brisbane, where we have our second site, that runs about 62 beds as well. That too is located next to the Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital itself. One thing very unique about Nucleus Network is that the way our infrastructure is built up is that we're located next to tertiary teaching hospital, which, as you can see, is very important for the work that we do for any critical emergency services. We have direct access to hospitals. We also have direct support from their emergency services department as well, whereby we share code blue for any emergency requirements as well. And also because of that, we are also located within a research precinct. Aside from our facility and the hospital, we have other ancillary research services as well that help support the type of trials that we do, that brings about very unique niche ability to provide clinical assessment that some of the facilities might not be able to accommodate. Just on that note, when I talk about the population of Australia being so concentrated in cities itself, if you look at the population serviced by Nucleus Network, combining both Melbourne and Brisbane. Melbourne, we have 5 million, and in Brisbane, we have about 2.5 million. So in total, we have a reach of 7.5 million out of Australia's population of about 24 million people. That's about 30% of the population of Australia within the catchment area of Melbourne itself. And we are the largest operation in Australia. If you look at 80 beds plus our 60 beds, about 60 beds in Brisbane itself, that's a total of about 150. And in all of Australia, the total phase 1 beds is 250. That allows us to really capture 60% of the early phase bed capacity in Australia itself. If we go to the next slide, please, thank you. This picture is hopefully a very helpful visualization for everyone to understand. This is where our Melbourne campus is, our Melbourne facility is. So in the yellow circle is the Alfred Hospital. That's the 800-bed tertiary teaching facility. And tucked behind it is where the research precinct is. And Nucleus Network is located in one of the levels there, operating our 80-bed facility. And you can see that because of our ability to have 2 sites running across Australia itself, that allows us a very unique position to specialize our unit. This Melbourne unit itself is specialized in first-time in human studies, as well as adaptive trial design studies as well, whereby we run dose escalation, dose ranging studies, single ascending dose, multiple ascending dose, followed by a very small proof of concept cohort in patient, for example, like phase 1A plus phase 1B adaptive trial nature. And we can service and we can offer those trials to be conducted in our particular specialized unit in Melbourne. Next slide, please. And this site highlights where the location of our second site in Australia, in Brisbane, is. So in the yellow circle, once again, is where the tertiary teaching hospital is, the Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital. And across it is where our facility is located, which is where our 62-bed facility is. And it is located within the QIMR research precinct as well. So as you can see, both our sites are kind of identical in terms of infrastructural makeup, and both have direct access to hospitals, as I've said earlier on. And for this facility, we have used it to be a specialized unit specifically for biosimilar studies and vaccine studies. As you might appreciate, for biosimilar and vaccine studies, the design is actually quite different from your typical dose ranging studies. For biosimilar and vaccine study, the duration usually is longer. So with our ability to offer specialization approach, our recruitment strategy is also adapted to allow and facilitate the recruitment of studies such as biosimilar and vaccine to ensure that the retention is there and the number of participants is also higher as well for the specific needs of biosimilar and vaccine study. Some of the examples that we can see being performed is Herceptin, Solaris, Xolair, Humira, and for vaccine studies, we have done in flu and dengue, as well as in cholera as well. Next slide, please. Thank you. Our major pool of clientele is really from the North America in the USA, no surprises. But at the same time, we're seeing a growing demand in Asia Pac as well, in Asia Pacific. Specifically in China, we have already worked with 20 plus collaborators, and in recent times in Korea as well, which is the very reason why we're here presenting to our fellow Korean industry members as well. So we've worked in the past with about 5 numbers of pharmaceutical and biotech companies, and we look forward to engaging with more. Next slide, please. So this next slide highlights some of the typical studies that we do, aside from your first-in-human, adaptive trial design, biosimilar, or vaccine trials. We also do ethnopharmacology trials as well. We have done Japanese-only cohorts, Chinese-only cohorts, specifically for clients who are keen to enter into the Japanese market to market their product, as well as to enter into China, which is a huge market, as we can see. Other than that, we do food interaction studies, drug-drug interaction studies, as well as TQT monitoring studies as well on a need-be basis. Next slide, please. And because of our location next to research precinct and next to hospitals, we're able to have access to very specialized facilities that allows us to actually perform a very intricate clinical assessments. For cardiology, we have done stress tests before. We have done multiple TTEs on healthy volunteers before. In the imaging sector, we have done CT scan, DEXA scan, MRIs. For neuroscience, we have done multiple lumbar punctures in healthy volunteers, as well as EEG and coccyx tests, specifically for the neuroscience environment. And there are other tests that we do, such as allergy tests and gluten challenge tests, as well as other irritant challenge tests as well. Next slide, please. So I think something that's of interest to everyone is how is the business running right now given the COVID-19 situation. So as some of my fellow colleagues have alluded earlier on, it is still very much a business as usual in Australia because we are deemed as very low risk country and the current cases of COVID-19 is very much under control. So our doors are still open and trials are still being run. As a matter of fact, our Nucleus will be initiating the first COVID-19 vaccine trial next week. We will be dosing next week, and you'll probably be seeing our name out in the news quite soon. So in total, right now, we are running 2 vaccine trials, one from the US, one from homegrown Australia, and another COVID-19 therapeutic in the process of submission that is from Taiwan. Some of the containment and risk mitigation measures that we have includes travel checks of our participants, not including participants who are immunosuppressed, not including participants who are above 60-year-olds. But at the same time, we also have physical distancing measures applied within our facility. The bed spacing have been widened to allow physical distancing and social distancing, and our staffs now have to actually follow a very strict protocol of hand hygiene, and we also increased the frequency of cleaning within the facility, especially in areas whereby there is high physical touch to ensure that the risk of actually contracting any infectious disease has been kept to the very, very bare minimum itself. Next slide, please. So this is really the last slide, which is going to be a reiteration of some of the information that a lot of my colleagues from Australia have highlighted, which is really the Australian regulatory system, which really encourage people to do quick quality research in Australia. There is no IND requirement, which is a great incentive to come to Australia. The review process itself is very, very short, between 4 to 6 weeks. And particularly if it's a COVID-19 program, for example, you can look at approval between 1 week or 2 weeks because of the expeditious and exemptions currently allowed by our regulators itself. So more importantly, there are a lot of other factors such as the R&D tax rebate, in addition to the fact that the quality of our data is recognized internationally, both in Australia as well as in EU, as well as in the US as well. So I thank you very much for your time in listening to my presentation. And if there are any questions, feel free to contact me. If we can go to the next slide, which really highlights my contact details. And I truly welcome anyone to reach out to me for more information on if need be. I'll be more than happy to entertain a phone call or via email as well. Thank you all.
Thank you. 감사합니다. Thank you very much. Your presentation is quite interesting. So next week's your clinical trial many people are interested in, and that's result, right?
Absolutely. That's what I was saying. I'll be watching the news. I'm sure Nucleus will come out on the news globally because we're the first one in Australia to initiate the COVID-19 vaccination program.
Sure. Thank you. Look forward to the good news from your company. Thank you very much for your presentation. 고맙습니다. Thank you.
Thank you. And looking forward to seeing everyone in Korea next year.
Next year. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. That was Nucleus Network. So viewers, thank you very much for joining us until almost the end. We have one last company left, Daewha Pharmaceutical. Well, Daewha Pharmaceutical was established in 1984 with foundation spirits of serving society and creating the better place for human beings through the pharmaceutical business. And one of the strong point is Daewha. Daewha has full line of pharmaceutical projects from API to FP with its own strong platform technology on drug delivery technology. So Mr. Cho Young-sang is now here with us. Hello, Cho Young-sang, Mr. Cho. Hi.
Yeah, hello. Yeah.
Okay, nice to meet you. You are the last speaker for today. So say hello to our viewers.
Yeah, it's my honor to take the last time of the presentation, and thanks for your kind and intensive introducing. So, hello everyone. This is Paul Cho from the Daewha Company. I'm in charge of the business development, and it's my honor and pleasure to have the opportunity to introduce our company at the live talk at Bio Korea 2020. So let me start from the watching our video file for our company profile for your reference. So please turn on the video file. Oh, yeah. So there we need more time for the video file. Anyway,
Daewha Pharmaceutical Company. Norman Vincent Peale mentioned that the word no denotes a shutting of the door. It means failure, defeat, delay. But spell it backwards and take new hope. For backwards, it spells on. Get really activated. Push on unremittingly toward your goal until your problem is solved, your difficulty dealt with. Since its foundation on 1984, Daewha has been seeking new paths for its business development with a consistent, improvement-oriented core target. Daewha has been constantly seeking own unique solutions with creativity and challenging for the improvement of quality of life for patients and development of Korean pharmaceutical industry with its globalization. With its own platform technologies, Daewha produces APIs and finished products. Cefamechil ranked 3rd in the oral cephalosporin antibiotic market. Corospan ranked 1st in the antispasmodic market. As the biggest and unique CMO company for transdermal drug delivery system product in Korea, Daewha equipped highly qualified, sterile, and flawless system. Also, we are establishing a solid position in the domestic pharmaceutical market through the production and development of various pharmaceutical products. Daewha is investing more than 10% of its sales into R&D and is focusing all of its enterprise resources into the development of QOL products. Daewha has been working through the challenging single path with its innovative and creative spirit on pharmaceutical products. Therefore, could secure their own source technology as world firstly. Also, Daewha currently exports their products to the 20 countries in the world. Daewha is running representative office in Vietnam and took over a German medical device manufacturing and distribution company. So, Daewha has grown from a mid-sized Korean enterprise into a universally recognized global specialized company in pharmaceuticals. Also, it will keep making out quantum leap for the futures. With its specialized core platform technology, Daewoo established the foundation of quantum leap to the world with its various pipelines. DH-LASED technology is our formulation platform technology which created the first oral paclitaxel anti-cancer drug in the world. Lipiraxel solution is the results of 15 years of study of Daewoo, and it was achieved astonishing results with proving its efficacy, safety, and convenience as results of 2 years of clinical phase 3 research since 2013. Lipiraxel solution is facing the launching in the domestic market on 2017 and would be applied IND to US FDA, which has biggest market in the world. Daewoo has changed the market paradigm from injection to oral administration. Also has created a groundbreaking turning point in the anti-cancer market, which had been exclusively possessed by multinational pharmaceutical companies. And Daewoo would constantly keep challenge to the dream of prolonging human lifespan and accelerate research of anti-cancer drugs with their platform technology. DH Herbal Technology is a specialized technology for the aging society. Our natural new product, DHP 1401, which, for dementia, verified the efficacy on memory improvement and protection of brain cell. Also, by proving of its safety, it is gradually approaching to the results of what we've dreamed. Besides, we are trying our best to develop blood pressure improving health functional food and to be prepared for providing the best optimized products to the aging society. Also, with basis of our platform technology, call it as the DH biotechnology, Daewoo also be securing meaningful various clinical data for Lou Gehrig disease and so on. Also keep strengthening the basis of overseas expansion for new drugs. Hence, Daewoo has reborning as global pharmaceutical company. Daewoo, which possesses the world's best TDDS technology, has developed a new TDDS platform that has minimized its side effects and so is currently leading the TDDS products market. These developments and launching of a specialized TDDS products are driving the sustaining growth of Daewoo. Also, these platform technologies are recognized globally, so with exportation of TDDS technology transfer, Daewoo is diversifying its business into the world. Daewoo is being reborn as a globally branded pharmaceutical company in the world. Daewoo's oral disintegration film, ODF, is easily administered without water, therefore could increase the drug compliance of children and elders who are suffering dysphagia. Daewoo has become a major player in the QOL drug market by studying and launching of various products, such like patients' customized formulation and products. By taking over Redox Bio Incorporated and a German cosmetics and medical device manufacturing and distribution company, Daewoo has stepped into a new area called the cosmetic surgery market. And we expect that these new area will contribute to the sales growth by expanding our business into the cosmetics manufacturing, which is specialized in antioxidants, as well as developing biomedicines and compounds. Youth is wholly experimental. Daewoo is a young corporation. Youth will not turn back from faced impossibilities. We have enthusiasm and challenging mind with creativity. The phrase of world's first development signifies our pride and our willingness to try our best till the very end. The age of actualizing dream of extension of life into reality. The youth one. We are Daewoo.
We are a young company and we have enthusiasm to develop the good pharmaceutical products for the improving of the quality of life of the all patients. So can you move into the next slide? Okay, so this is the brief introduction about our company, our history. So it is already explained in the video file, so let me skip that. So please move to the next. So as the pharmacy company, we are running the 3 R&D center in Panjo and Central and in Gangwon and Gyeonggi area. Each of our R&D center has their own purpose. The Panjo R&D center is our main R&D center. They are mainly conducting R&D project for the developing new drug, especially the IMD project and other kind of the new dosage form formulation technology. And then the Central Research Center is at the charging of the improving our quality of the product, most of the generic product. But anyway, yeah, they are managing with they are located at our factory side. And then the third R&D center is that dedicating for the synthesis of the API and biomaterials. So moving to the next slide. This is our facilities situation. So we are running 4 facilities and now. So each of the factory has their own approach to running. The first factory is that focusing for the oral formulation, such like the hard capsule and external ointment, cream, and that kind of product. And second factory is that the TDDS dedicated factory, transdermal drug delivery products. And the third one is that for the anti-cancer dedicated facility 2, it is the oral anti-cancer formulation of the facilities. And then the final one is that the API synthesizing factory. So let me move to the next slide. So in the name of the DEWA, we have the 3 big category of the R&D project. One is the DH asset technology, the other one is that DH bio natural product, and the final one is the DH TDDS and ODF. So each color meaning as you can see that our company logo in right upper side, the circulated three colors circulated, red color meaning as the respecting line, and green color meaning as the protected environment, and blue color meaning as the advanced technology. So this might impressing about our company, the philosophy. So moving to the next slide. So as the digital asset project, this is most important, our platform technology. We have this kind of the R&D pipelines ongoing, the studying status. So I will explain more detail in another slide. So let me move into the next slide. Yeah, next slide, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, just 4 more, yeah. Anyway, yeah, we have the also bio, as already introduced, we have the DH bio herbal technology, which is mainly the herbal extraction technology to develop a new drug. And then the final one is that the TDDS, the transdermal technology. So moving to the next slide, I want to introduce about the DH asset. It's our most impressive and potential platform technology. So DH asset is abbreviated from the DEWA lipid-based self-amplifying drug delivery technology. This formulation technology could be adaptable to the poorly absorbed drug and non-soluble drug and unmet need drug and the old-fashioned drug turning to the high-tech, innovative, well-absorbable and well-soluble drugs. So that is our main platform technology. So moving to the next. Liporaxel, the world firstly approved oral paclitaxel, would be introduced. So moving to the next. Yeah, so this is our first result of the digital asset platform technology. So moving to next. So what is Liporaxel? The code name was DHB107. The world firstly approved novel oral paclitaxel solution. So it could be improved the quality of life of the anti-cancer patient. So composed by the edible oils, which is listed in grass, is very safe ingredient. And then also it is because it doesn't have any kind of the containing P-glycoprotein inhibitors or any kind of the absorption enhancer. Many other companies also trying to develop the oral formulation of the paclitaxel, but they have failed because of it is non-soluble and not well absorbable materials. So we are adapting our lipid-based technology. We are using turning this paclitaxel to the well absorbable ones. So we don't need to take the P-glycoprotein inhibitor or other kind of the absorption enhancer too. In meaning as that very important that less side effect and doesn't take the pre-medication. So no more paclitaxel injection have to take the pre-medication, such like the antihistamine or steroid and other kind of things. But our Reproxel doesn't need to take that kind of the pre-medication, and very simple to take. In case of the IV paclitaxel, they have to take the hospitalization before take the administration of the IV paclitaxel. They have to get into the hospital before 24 hours ago, and then take the long time of the pre-medication, and then additionally finally take the 3 hours of the infusion time. But our Reproxel is just drinking, very simple and convenient. So also speaking about safety issues, first to the IV paclitaxel, our clinical results express that the incidence rate of the alopecia and peripheral sensory neuropathy is decreased than the IV paclitaxel. So you know that alopecia is very important to the breast cancer woman patient. And then the peripheral sensory neuropathy is one of the main reasons to stop the IV paclitaxel treatment. So this kind of things is very impressive one. So let me move into the next slide. This is the Taxol and our Reproxel, very simple process model. So it is. I wanted to move into the next slide. So this is the currently well-known paclitaxel formulations. So there are many kind of the paclitaxel product, but they are still injection form. But only our product has approved as the oral formulation. Also, other companies also trying to develop the oral formulation too, but the approved one is that only our Reproxel and now. So moving to the next slide. This is explaining about our another important technology area. It is that the transdermal drug delivery. So with almost 20 years of the history, we have developed many kind of the products. In the world, there are few companies can manufacturing 3 categories of the TDDS project, such as patch and plaster and cataplasma. Patch is meaning as that the systemically workable products, and plaster and cataplasma meaning as that the local action patch product. So difference of the plaster and cataplasma is that the size and containing moisture. Anyway, this field also we are taking the ODM and OEM business over the almost 70% in Korean market, and now we are also opening the joint venture company in China to develop this kind of business too. So this is another our main technology. So moving to the next. This is my final slide. So there indicated my contact information, and as the young company, we have enthusiasm and clear target to achieve as improving the quality of life of patients with our novel formulation technology and others to improve the quality of life of our all patients. So thanks again for BioKorea and attendees and with the chairman, and hope that everyone has great and wish all of yours healthy and well life. So if you have any kind of question, you can ask too.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think that you have a lot of potentials to develop even further. So we've learned too, there was strategies and visions from your presentation. Thank you very much, Mr. Joe. Yes, we have some comments, but due to time limit, we have to wrap up this program. So lastly, do you have anything to say to our viewers and investors or,
We have open-minded to cooperate all kinds of the business models. So if you have any kind of the plan and interesting, please contact to us at any time. So we will do our best.
Okay, thank you very much. Nice words. Thank you very much, Mr. Joe. You have a good day. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good day too. Bye.
Bye. Okay, viewers, lastly, sadly, it is time to say goodbye to you all. Thank you very much for your attention and your time until the end. It's been 3 days and we introduced 28 companies 28 companies' strategies and vision and potential. I hope that it was very meaningful time to all of you. And I believe that we can see you next year in Seoul at the venue. Hope to see you next year. Thank you. Bye.